The Alex Bregman contract is going to age terribly. It's going to be a horrible deal towards the latter parts of that contract. But I'll tell you what, I want him on my team. I really want him on my team. I'll give you the pros and cons of an Alex Bregman deal on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Welcome in, everybody, to 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vrionis, and took a bit of a hiatus there with putting my face in the videos. Tried some different stuff, whether it was GIFs, whether it was different videos of highlights. Let me know what you think of that style of video down in the comments below. But I'm back to my normal setup today, back to my normal face cam videos. So I don't know if you guys prefer this, but this is what I'm going with today. Before we get into it, though, make sure to hit that sub button. Large majority of you who are watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel, so if you could help get me to 3,000 subs, that would mean the world to me. But let's get straight into the video here. So Alex Bregman, he's the talk of the offseason now. It switched from Pete Alonso back over to Alex Bregman now, who is looking for a 6 or 7 year deal, according to Bob Nightingale. Now, Bregman is 30. He's coming off a down year, I would say, by his standards for sure. So we're already seeing diminishing returns on Alex Bregman. Now, if you combine that with a 6 or 7 year deal, it has disaster written all over it. But I'll keep this up for you guys right here while I just search for his stats. And yeah, last year he hit 260, 26 home runs, 75 RBIs. Pretty good counting stats, there's no doubt. But for a guy who's going to be looking to make $25 million annually, you would want a little bit more. And he played a lot of games last year. He's a solid player, but an OPS under 800 for the first time in what feels like a while. So Alex Bregman, great player. I want him on my team. Gold Glove winner. The guy is made for the big moments. But you have to believe that that contract is not going to be great towards the latter stages, maybe even towards the middle part of that contract. You might start to see some even worse seasons from Alex Bregman. And I'll use a former Astro as a perfect example of that. George Springer. I was ecstatic when the Blue Jays signed him. I really was. And I loved the deal at the time. I had a feeling that it might not be great as we advance and as we look at it in 4 or 5 years from now. And I was right. Most people were right as well that predicted that. But you had a couple of great years of George Springer, former World Series MVP candidate, and I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it for the Blue Jays. In hindsight, maybe you don't do that deal, but you don't get that player if you don't go that extra mile, if you don't give him that extra year. And I mean, this is the perfect example right here. So Hector Gomez said that the Blue Jays have a 6 year offer on the table for Alex Bregman, and then basically Andy here behind the ivy saying, Scott Boras, anyone want to give Alex Bregman a 6 year deal? The Blue Jays will do it. Anyone at all want to give him 6 years. Now, everyone wants to trash Toronto and trash the Blue Jays for not being able to get free agents, even though they offer the most amount of money. But what other alternative do they have? And that's my question. And I'll use the Kawhi Leonard situation in basketball as a perfect example. I mean, they won a freaking championship, for God's sake. And it wasn't enough to keep the guy in town. Now he went to the Clippers and hasn't had success since. He's been injured. I mean, he had the perfect situation going for him in Toronto, and he failed to realize that. He wanted to go back home, which is fine. Can't fault a guy for wanting to go back home, but Toronto could be the place to be for a lot of guys, and I think they fail to keep an open mind when making a decision like that. Instead, they sign with another club, and then they don't have the success. I'm not saying that the Blue Jays have had an immense amount of success, but they went to back-to-back ALCSs in 2015, 2016, And they were one of the better teams in Major League Baseball for quite some time. And I think they can get back to that if they can add some of these players. Now, does Alex Bregman solve all of your issues? He doesn't, but I think he's a significantly better player, a more patient hitter, and a better defender than Ernie Clement is, who is now slated to be the everyday third baseman for the Blue Jays. So, yeah, they might have to overpay, and that's probably the only way that they'll get him, but I'm okay with that. I'll live with the possibility of Alex Bregman being a worse player at the end of this contract than he is at the beginning of it. And I think that's something that a lot of teams are going to have to come to terms with, which is why this whole process has been dragging on for so long. And the Houston Astros are even in that ballpark right now. They offered him 6 years, $156 million, which is in line with what Matt Chapman is making. And I think Bregman is a better player than Matt Chapman. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and he doesn't strike out, which is something that I love about him. He fits the bill of this Toronto Blue Jays team. He struck out 86 times last year, never struck out more than 100 times in a season. So I love those kinds of players. He had 8.9 wins above replacement in 2019. He finished second in MVP voting. This guy is an absolute stud, and he would fit tremendously well with this Blue Jays team. And for the love of God, can we just get him signed so we could stop seeing these Ben Verlander tweets? Today is a great day for the Detroit Tigers to sign Alex Bregman. He's been tweeting this every single day for about a month now. And I don't know why I haven't blocked him, because it's really annoying, but spare me from having to see this every single day. Can he just sign with the Tigers at least? Just so we could get Ben Verlander to stop tweeting. He'll never stop tweeting, but you know what I mean. Anyways, this Scott Boras has had a couple of back-to-back pretty bad off seasons. I'll just put it that way. Scott Boras has not done his clients any favors, and if he wants to brag about getting Juan Soto, who is a can't-miss generational talent, $800 million, then so be it. But that was not Scott Boras' doing. That was Juan Soto being a great player. That's what ended up happening. So this whole thing has dragged on for far too long, in my opinion, and hopefully we can get a resolution soon. But let me know in the comments down below, guys, where do you think Alex Bregman is going to end up? Do you think it's going to be with the Blue Jays, the Tigers, going to go back to the Astros? Heard the Cubs rumored in there, the Red Sox too. So there are a lot of teams in these sweepstakes, but we still don't have an answer as to where one of the best third basemen in baseball is going to be playing next year. But let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all next week.